Hey everybody, and welcome to May the Force Be With Who. And this is going to be my review of last night's season finale to Series 10 of Doctor Who, The Doctor Falls. And first thing right off the bat, damn. I thought it was an amazing episode. I thought it wrapped up a whole lot of ongoing story arcs, and I just loved it. Now, all you Moffat haters out there in the world, that's your opinion, whatever. But I thought it was a great episode. We start off right off the bat, picking up from last week, where we're still on the ship that's hovering the black hole, the 400-mile ship. And we end up on, I think it's level 507, which is a solar farm. So that's why it's all sunny and there's rolling hills and green and everything. And the Doctor's in bad shape from the jump, and as we see to kind of how it jumps back a little bit towards last week's episode, when finally confronted with both the John Sim version of the Master and Missy and the Bill Cyberman, how they have a skirmish, and the Doctor gets not really his ass beat, but gets it, he's being double teamed by two versions of the Master, so that's, he's going to come out on the rough end of that. But then how he turns the tables, and because how all the Cybermen are coming, and how he had got on the computer and oh, I've changed the definition of humanity, now they're looking for two hearts, so it's kind of like, ha, fooled you. And that was just great. And the back and forth between Capaldi and John Sim, even though the two have not been on screen together in Doctor Who before, about, the last time I saw you were going to Gallifrey, there are a lot of callbacks to a lot of, past episodes, referring to the End of Time Part 2, which was the last time we'd seen the John Sim version of the Master, which was also David Tennant's swan song. And it was some great stuff. And the whole, when they escaped in the ship with Nardal, and Sim's Master gets in, and the Doctor's dead, and he said he's always hated you. And then Missy comes in right behind him and says, the Doctor's dead, and he said he always hated you. And Nardal's response was, yeah, I heard you the first time. There was just, there was some good humor in it, but it was really an emotional episode, especially with Bill and her conversion to being a Cyberman, which when I first saw her on screen and she was Bill, like, Pearl Mackie Bill, I was kind of like, oh shit, allegedly that was everybody's big fear going into this, is that Moffat was going to pull some kind of thing where they're going to be able to reverse a conversion. And I'm glad that they stuck with the guns and left Bill as a Cyberman, that when, she thinks she's still Bill, whereas we see her and she's a Cyberman. I thought that was a great trick. And when she saw her shadow on the wall with the big cyber handles on her head, that was really cool. And just, once again, the chemistry between Peter Capaldi and Pearl Mackie has been the strength of this whole season. And never more so than in last night's episode, The Doctor Falls. It was just there. And you could tell that Capaldi was just showing this guilt and this grief and this anguish for, letting this happen to Bill, and just her reactions, her facial reactions, and just that, that she can't believe, and she's horrified that, this is what she has become. And I thought it was great. And speaking of Capaldi, his big speech to both of the Masters, Missy and the John Sim Master, trying to plead with them, stand with me, and I may lose, and this is where I may fall, or where I stand, I fall, and everything. It was one of Capaldi's great speeches. It's not quite up there with the one from the Zygon inversion, and maybe on even par with the one he gave about humanity in Thin Ice from earlier this season. But it was a good speech. And then Sim, who actually downplays the Master a lot more than he had in his earlier runs, was like, do you see this face? This is the face that just did not pay a bit of attention to anything you just said. That was great. And the byplay and the chemistry between Michelle Gomez and John Sim as Missy and the Master was fantastic. And the only gripe I've got about that is that I wish they had more screen time together. But, I think we wrapped up Nardal real good. It looks like he was going to have a girlfriend, the person that was taking care of all the kids. And his little farewell line to the Doctor and Bill was, it was a nice line that he couldn't find the words. That was great. And I know a lot of people were not real happy about Matt Lucas reprising the role of Nardal in season 10, but he was not bad. And especially, as I've touched on earlier, in the scenes where he's back talking Capaldi, or, he's going head to head with Capaldi / the Doctor. I think it showed his real strength, not when he was being comedic, but when, he was showing some dramatic chops. And I didn't mind Nardole in this at all. Haven't minded him at all season. The Cybermen. Now, I've stated many times, just like the Daleks, the Cybermen are not my favorite monsters. And once again, I know that, this episode kind of, along with last week's World Enough and Time, we probably were expecting more of a genesis of the Cybermen. It was even referenced to by the John Sim Master in last week's The World Enough and Time. But they're basically cannon fodder for the entire episode, which I'm kind of okay with. Because last weekend, in preparation, I went and bought the 10th Planet, more on that in a minute, and the Moon Base, which were the first two Cybermen stories. And I'm Cybermaned out. But just the fact that I got to see a lot of them blown up and destroyed last night was awesome. Now, getting to the fact, all right, we want to get to the lead up to the regeneration. Capaldi got his ass kicked. And we have never really seen, since probably Peter Davison in the Caves of Androzani, the Doctor take this much physical abuse. I mean, he was electrocuted by the Mondasian Cyberman early in the episode. And then when he's walking with Bill later on in the episode, he's bandaged, he's bloody, and his suit's all torn to hell. And when he reaches out and the energy starts to come from his hand, you're like, oh shit, he's already pretty much on his way out. Then later, which is probably the standout scene for me in this episode, when he's facing down the Cybermen, the kids have escaped, Nardole's escaped, and he's just running around with the Sonic, just zap, 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 and all the stuff is exploding and blowing up the Cybermen, and he's making references to previous Doctor Who adventures. He name checks Voga, he name checks the Moon Base, he name checks the tombs on Telos, which is great. Like I said, there's a lot of callbacks to old Doctor Who, classic Doctor Who, but it was Capaldi just making his last stand, and it was awesome. And then, he gets shot in the back from a Cyberman, and then he takes another shot to the front, and we've never really seen the Doctor get shot. If you don't count Sylvester McCoy in the TV movie, and that's not what caused him to regenerate anyway, it was Grace Holloway operating on him and fucking up his second heart, which is what caused that regeneration. But we've never just seen a Doctor just take that much physical abuse, but it was a powerful scene. Now, I'm going to jump back a little bit to the two masters are, the continuation of our multi-master story. John Sim and Michelle Rodriguez, when, they decide they're not going to stand with the Doctor and they're going to find the Master's TARDIS. And I love the little line about, when Missy had him up against the wall and she was like, a scary lady one time told me to never, leave home without an extra materialization circuit. That was a cute little reference. But then with the whole hug and her stabbing him in the back, that was awesome. I knew it as soon as she hugged him and then he pulled away. I was like, oh, she just stabbed his ass, and I was right. And it was the whole kind of thing about she was still evil in a sense, but she had made her mind up that she was going to help the Doctor. And then Sim's version of the Master, who is going to, we believe, regenerate into Missy, was like, I'm not going to stand with the Doctor, and he shoots Missy in the back with a laser screwdriver, and the whole thing about it's at full force, you're not going to regenerate, don't even bother. And they're both laughing as they're dying. And we see Sim go down in the elevator, evidently to his TARDIS, to regenerate. I wish we'd have seen a regeneration from Sim into Michelle Gomez, but we didn't get that. And then just Missy just laying there, smiling, and then dying, allegedly. Although Michelle Gomez has said that this is her swan song as Missy, it was just kind of, okay, they stayed true to their character. They're both, dirty, rotten scoundrels, and they double-crossed each other. And in turn, stabbed each other in the back, literally, and killed one another. So that's where we left the Master. Now, getting to Bill. Like I said, I'm glad that Moffat stuck with the not finding a way to reconvert Bill back to a human, that she stayed a Cyberman, and her finding the Doctor's body and picking him up and the whole, screaming out in pain. And then there's the puddle, and then Heather shows up from all the way back in episode 1 in the pilot, which I thought was a great callback. And, I don't care. You want to call me out on my man card. It was the one time in the episode that I got choked up because I thought it was tying up a plot point from earlier in the season. And I just thought it was a great way to send Bill off, that, she had fallen in love with Heather, and Heather had become the pilot and, was off seeing the stars. And then they even, made the reference to when Bill had the tears on her face in the pilot. She's like, I don't think these are my tears. And I bought it. And if, other Moffat haters out there didn't like how this ended with Bill and Heather coming to get Bill, then whatever. You're going to hate it because you're Moffat haters, and I'm not going to get into this whole thing. But for me, it worked. I thought it was a great way to wrap up Bill's character with Bill's storyline. And, okay, there are a couple of similarities to, okay, she's out seeing the universe, just kind of like how Clara is, but at least Bill didn't get her own TARDIS, and they didn't try to make her a Time Lord. So I'm fine with it. I thought it was great. I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was awesome. Now to the other big part of the episode, the lead up to the regeneration. Now, Capaldi's back in, he wakes up in the TARDIS, and he's, starting, his hands are all glowy, sparkly. And he's like, he doesn't want to regenerate. And, there's the call back to the David Tennant, I don't want to go. And When the Doctor Was Me, and all that stuff to Matt Smith as well. And the Jelly Babies. And he doesn't want to regenerate. He doesn't want to regenerate. And then we get to the shot that we had started the World Enough in Time with, where he's out in what appears to be the Arctic. And he comes out of the TARDIS, and he's starting to regenerate, and he's screaming no. And he shoves his hand in the snow. And then all of a sudden, we hear who is this? Or actually, it sounded like the first Doctor, which it turned out to be, was saying lines like, no, it's ridiculous. I'm not going to do it. Like, he's arguing against his regeneration too. Capaldi looks up, and there's a whole thing about the Doctor. No, you may be a Doctor, but I am the Doctor, the original, you might say, and the whole grabbing his lapels. And that line is actually a callback to the 20th anniversary episode, The Five Doctors, which that line was also uttered by an actor who replaced the late William Hartnell, Richard Herndl, who played the first Doctor in The Five Doctors. But anyway, yes, I know I'm a big nerd. But everything is leading me to believe that this whole meeting between 12 and 1 is happening during the 10th planet, which ironically enough also features the Mondasian Cybermen. Now, the 10th planet was William Hartnell's last story as the first Doctor, which was our first regeneration story. And ironically enough, I'm thinking that this whole meeting of 12 and 1 is going to take place during the time frame of episode 3 of this story, because William Hartnell does not appear as the Doctor in the entirety of episode 3. He's overcome with fatigue, and it's kind of led to believe that the Mondasian Cybermen, who are trying to draw power from and energy from Earth, from Mondas, that was affecting the Doctor and might have triggered his regeneration. So they can set that whole time frame of 12 and 1 meeting together, probably during what is going to be the episode 3 of the 10th planet. Now, for any of you who use it, forever, I need to buy Val. There it is. It's a staple of this show. For any of those of you who have not seen the 10th planet, with the exception of the very first regeneration and the very first appearance of the Mondasian Cyberman, it is a very pedestrian story. William Hartnell is kind of on his last legs in this. It was his last episode, and he really does not have a whole lot to do. A lot of the action is taken up by the General Cutler character, as well as his companion Ben, and also his companion Polly. Hartnell's just kind of there. He throws out some Doctor lines every now and then, and he regenerates at the end of it to Patrick Troughton, which at the episode 4 with the actual regeneration has been recreated in animation because it's lost. So if you want to pick it out just because you're a Who fan, go out and get it. Now, David Bradley reprising his role as, well, semi-reprising his role because, David Bradley played William Hartnell, who played the first Doctor in the 50th anniversary movie special, An Adventure in Space and Time, which was the story of how Doctor Who got started. It was a William Hartnell story, as well as Verity Lambert. And, oh God, I can't believe I'm getting ready to forget who this is. Oh, Sidney Newman. Oh yeah, Brian Cox, who played Sidney Newman. I should remember that. Brian Cox is one of my favorite actors. But I rewatched that last night to get a sense of David Bradley playing the first Doctor, his William Hartnell. And I think it's a nice callback that they brought back David Bradley to play the first Doctor, since he's sort of already played William Hartnell / the first Doctor. So we're getting a multi-Doctor story for the Christmas Regeneration story. There's been rumors that the title may be A Tale of Two Doctors. That's not been confirmed yet, but that's a Christmas special. So we've got all the way till December to wait for that. But on the whole, I absolutely loved The Doctor Falls. I thought it was a great episode. Capaldi was fantastic. I thought Pearl Mackie and the character of Bill went out great. The only niggle I have with it is that I wish there had been more of the double masters. But even how they wrapped that up was great. And yeah, I loved it. It was awesome. So Series 10 on a whole was pretty good. It didn't have any really amazing standout episodes, except maybe for the final two, World Enough in Time and The Doctor Falls. But solid way for Capaldi to go out. I did Capaldi. I went as the 12th Doctor for Halloween 2 out of the last 3 years. I even got the 12th Doctor coat. I'm not wearing it right now, but I'm going to miss Capaldi. So that's going to do it. Until next time, next weekend with the Spider-Man Homecoming review, keep on keeping on, and may the Force be with who?